And we start with the Anatolian Shepherd Dog. The Australian Cattle Dog. The Australian Shepherd. The Bearded Collie. The Groenendael. The Laekenois. The Tervueren. The Border Collie. The Briard. The Rough Collie. The Smooth Collie. The Estrela Mountain Dog. The German Shepherd Dog. The Hungarian Kuvasz. The Hungarian Puli. The Commodore. The Lancashire Heeler. The Pyrenean Sheepdog. The Norwegian Beauceron. The Old English Sheepdog. The Polish Lowland Sheepdog. The Pyrenean Mountain Dog. The Samoyed. The Shetland Sheepdog. The Swedish Lapphund. The Cardigan Welsh Corgi. And finally, the Pembroke Welsh Corgi. And now, once again, over to Mr. Bernard Hall.
Thank you, David. Well, of course, exactly the same procedure as last time, except that we have a few more dogs in the pastoral group than we had in the working group. I think Mr. Smith will also shortlist to about the same number as Mr. Beauceron. But first of all, he's going to have a look at them, then he's going to go over each one individually. And looking at them, you can see we've got quite a variety of sizes, shapes. We should be using the table, of course, for some of the dogs, some of the smaller ones. probably many of you know, we have 4 varieties of Belgian Shepherd Dog. We have only 3 with us at the moment, but I believe the Malinois is just on its way and will join the other Belgian Shepherds. But first of all, we have out the Anatolian Shepherd Dog. Mrs. Meg Pennell Carpenter judged this breed. There were 21 entered, and the number of the best of breed, which is a dog, is 2557. The Anatolian originates in Turkey, and the Turkish name for it means shepherd's dog. It's a flock protector. It's not a herding dog. It's of ancient origin. Similar dogs are depicted in Assyrian artwork from more than 4,000 years ago. It's one of the true working dogs found in the world today, and the conditions in which it has to work can be extreme, and through necessity, these dogs have become very adaptable. The Anatolian Shepherd Dog. Now we have here the Australian Cattle Dog, and it was judged by a lady who comes from Victoria, Australia, Mrs. Beulah Pontin. She chose this dog, number 2570, and it came from an entry of 32. When the first settlers arrived in Australia with their stock, they also brought their working dogs, some from the United Kingdom, some from Europe. And most of these proved good workers on the coastal strip, but once the settlers moved into the harsh interior, it became apparent that good as these dogs were, they could not stand up to the conditions of the outback. And so there was crossing with other dogs which were imported to produce the Australian Cattle Dog. Come now to the Australian Shepherd. Judge was Mr. Stuart Mallard. Entry of 75, and this one is 2640 and is a dog. Although the Australian Shepherd carries the prefix Australian, he is in fact an American breed with origins going back to the Basque and Spanish sheepdogs. During the latter part of the 19th century, when Basque shepherds began to emigrate to Australia to find work, they took their little blue dogs and the Australian Shepherd began his travels. In the early 1900s, Australian sheep were imported into America, and with the sheep went the shepherds and their little blue dogs. From there developed the Australian Shepherd. We had 2 judges for the bearded collies. Mrs. Ann Arch judged the dogs. Mr. Felix Cosby judged the bitches. They had a total of 309 between them, and the best of breed is 2736, and this is a dog. Bearded Collie Club was formed in the early 1900s. All beardies registered at the Kennel Club between 1909 and January 58 appeared in this special register that was created by the Kennel Club. So the breed goes back to the beginning of the last century. Mrs. G.M. Gibbs judged the first of our Belgian Shepherd dogs, the Groenendael, entry of 89, and this one is 3005, a dog. All 4 varieties of Belgian Shepherd dogs are medium-sized, elegant dogs bred as herding and guard dogs. They may be solid black, such as the Groenendael, and other colours and coats which we shall see in a moment. Groenendael is one of the 2 long-coated varieties, and in the long-coated varieties, males may have a rather more profuse coat with a pronounced ruff. The bitches are less heavily coated and do have a more distinctive look. Now we have the Laekenois. Again, the judge was Mrs. Gibbs, Mrs. G.M. Gibbs, and her best of breed this time is 3073, a bitch which was drawn from an entry of 6. The Laekenois is rough-coated and reddish in colour. Has a black shading. All the Belgian Shepherds are rather square, elegant dogs, no matter what the coat or the colouring. We move on from the Laekenois to the Malinois. And again, it was Mrs. Gibbs who judged them. There were 28 of these, and the number of this best of breed is 3097, which is a dog. The Malinois is, like the others, a relatively healthy, robust breed. Comes in all shades of red, fawn or grey with a mask and overlay. A short coat of firm texture, thick around the neck and tail. Now we see the Tervueren, which, like the Groenendael, has been among the more popular of the 4 varieties of Belgian Shepherd Dog in this country for some time. And this time we had a different judge. It was Miss Kathy Bird. She had an entry of 119, and her best of breed was the dog 3210. Tervueren comes all shades of red, fawn or grey, with a black mask and overlay. The coat is long, straight, and as you can see, quite abundant. Our next breed, the Border Collie, called for 2 judges, and the dogs were judged by Mr. John Ritchie, and the bitches were judged by Mr. Albert White. Between them they had an entry of 326. The best of breed was selected as 3350 and is a dog. Not a lot is known about the very early history of the Border Collie, but it's certainly been around for something like 200 years. And we all know the reputation of the working skills of this particular breed. It's recognized as the world's premier sheep working breed, renowned for athleticism, intelligence, a keenness to work, and its almost uncanny sheep herding skills. Border Collie. Come now to the Briard. Briards were judged today by Mr. Gordon Rule with an entry of 95, from which he chose 3626, a dog, as his best of breed. The Briard is an old French breed which goes back in history as far as Charlemagne, of whom you may have heard. You can see it in tapestries of that period, and history also attributes two Briards to the ownership of Napoleon, sometimes known in France by its French name as the Sheepdog of Brie. It's a wonderful working dog. It's the most numerous of the French sheepdog breeds. It's been used throughout the centuries as a sheep herding dog and also as a guardian of the flock and the homestead. The rough collie. Two judges here. Dogs were judged by Mrs. Elsie Westwood and the bitches by Mr. Jack Wigglesworth. Jointly they had an entry of 299, and the best of breed is the dog, 3679. Rough collies, of course, are one of our native British breeds and owe some of their popularity to Queen Victoria and Princess Alexandra during the mid to late 1800s. Even today, I understand there are rough collies working on the royal estates. After the rough collie, we have the smooth collie, judged by Mr. Peter Fishwick. There are 58 entered, and the best of breed is this dog, 3962. Smooth collie is not as well known as the rough, and is little known outside of the show ring. It's a pity because I'm told it makes an ideal family companion. Is good with children and is very loyal. First recognized as a breed with the rough collie in the late 19th century. Queen Victoria also had smooth collies in her kennel. It's never ever been as popular as its cousin, the rough. Now we move on to the Estrela Mountain Dog. The judge here was Mr. Jeff Luscott. He had an entry of 32. And this best of breed number is 4012 and is another dog. It was known as the Portuguese Sheepdog or the Portuguese Mountain Dog. To avoid confusion when they came to Britain, it was decided to name them after their place of origin, which was the Estrela Mountain Range, round about the centre of Portugal. You can see it's a heavily built dog, and in its native mountains, it's a great protector of the flock. Very much a farmer's dog, but we have seen it increasingly develop as a show dog. We come now to the German Shepherd, judged today by Mr. Andrew Winfrow. 145 were entered under him, and he chose 4031, a dog, as his best of breed. This is a breed which was developed in Germany in the late 19th century from working dogs whose ancestors had worked and guarded sheep for hundreds of years. it was realized that they could be trained for many roles, but it couldn't have been expected that they would become one of the most popular breeds in the world today. They worked with German troops in the First World War. For a while became known as Alsatians, as anything German would not have been popular at that time. And it was in fact another 50 years before they became known as German Shepherd Dogs. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Hungarian Kuvasz. This is another breed judged today by Mr. Jeff Luscott. The number of this one is 4176, and this one's a bitch. History of this breed can be traced back to Hungary, where Tibetan, Turkish, and certainly Hungarian, and possibly other breeds were crossbred to produce this flock guarding dog. It's a dog which has a close affinity to its master or mistress and family. Stands about a maximum of 26 inches at the withers, but can weigh up to 120 pounds. We go now to the table for the Hungarian Puli. This was judged as a breed by Mrs. Zena Thorne Andrews. It was an entry of 71. And this one is a dog number 4205. Medium-sized dog this time. Possesses great intelligence, is affectionate, they're very loyal, make excellent watchdogs. One of the few breeds that grow a corded coat, which is dense and weather resistant, and is probably its most striking feature. On a mature adult, it can reach the ground. Tends to look as though it's floating rather than using legs underneath. Breed grew in popularity in the 1970s, and it was at Crufts in 1978 that they were awarded challenge certificate status. We have another corded breed, this time it's the Groenendael, and again it was Mrs. Zena Thorne Andrews who was the judge. 12 of these were entered, and the best of breed is 4248, which is a bitch. There's a legend in Hungary from which this breed comes that some Serbian shepherds found a litter of wolf cubs and selected those which behaved most like dogs. These were trained to work with sheep and crossed with native dogs, and supposedly produced the Groenendael. Well, you believe that you will. In spite of all the legends, the Groenendael, like the Puli, is believed to have been brought in by the Magyars from the Far East, being directly descended from the Outcharki. It's a flock guarder. In his native country, the Groenendael is a shaggy, heavily matted and untidy coated dog, not quite like the ones we see in the show ring. Now on the table we have the Lancashire Heeler, judged by Mrs. Enid Lord. There were 58 entered, and the number of this one, a bitch, is 4284. It's the smallest English herding dog. It's in the Pastoral Group, of course. Lancashire Heelers have been recognised as pedigree dogs since 1981. The Lancashire Heeler Club had been formed some 3 years earlier to promote the breed and to get Kennel Club recognition. It's been used as a farm dog in the southern part of Lancashire for possibly a few hundred years. Probably evolved by crosses between the Welsh Corgi and the Manchester Terrier, although other crosses almost certainly took place. Very little is known about this breed of dog, or at least of its early history. But here we have it, the Lancashire Heeler. We move on to the Estrela Sheepdog. The judge was Mrs. Janet Atkins. From an entry of 23, she chose this one, a dog 4329. It's a breed which was traditionally associated with the large country houses of Tuscany. Basically, the breed is a flock guarder and does have a great guarding instinct. Because there were fears that the breed would be, quote, improved beyond acceptability, it was kept from the public eye for many years. Now we move on to the Norwegian Boohunt. Mr. Ralph Campbell was the judge. Entry of 49. 4360, this dog was his best of breed. Boohunt is a member of the Spitz family of dogs. Medium sized, as you can see, it's a compact dog, has pointed, what they call mobile ears, has a curly tail, usually pale wheat in colour, but can be any colour from pale cream to wolf sable or even black. It's a working farm dog, should be capable of arduous work, but that doesn't deny its intelligence. Now we come to the Old English Sheepdog, which in spite of its name, the ancestry of this breed comes through the European Shepherd Dogs bred to the sheepdogs of these islands. The Old English were judged today by Mr. Jeremy Swatkins. He had an entry of 150, and his choice of best of breed was the dog 4399. Also carries the name Bobtail, name derived from the fact that drovers' dogs were exempt from tax and were identified by having their tails docked. And the Bobtail made a good drover's dog, had a very heavy weather-resistant coat, and it was also protected as a guard. Should be strong, square-looking, and symmetry is of great importance. We now have the Polish Lowland Sheepdog. Judge was Mr. Ellis Hume. Entry 53. Best of breed number 4569. And it's a bitch. The Polish Lowland was almost extinct after the Second World War until a veterinary surgeon, whose name I can't really successfully pronounce, revived the breed. Her affix can be seen in the pedigrees of many of today's top-winning dogs. National Working Breeds, which is one of our major shows in this country, classified the first import register classes at their championship show in 1986. Come now to the Pyrenean Mountain Dog, judged by Mrs. June Durance. 103 entries. 4672 is the number of this one, and it's a dog. Over the years, the increased popularity of the Pyrenean has created new interest over his origins. Although his presence in the Pyrenees is documented as far back as Roman times, there are two different opinions as to where he originated. First is the breed is a descendant of the Tibetan Mastiff, which we saw earlier. The other claims that his antecedents were the dogs of the ancient Sumerians. But whichever, he's become a very popular show dog. And regularly finds his place in our group rings. This white dog is, of course, the Samoyed, judged by Mr. Gordon Tomlinson as a breed. 194 were entered. And this is the dog 4755. For centuries, reindeer herders in western Siberia used dogs to run freely, keeping the herds together, giving warning of predatory bears and wolves by barking. Sometimes they were required to pull sledges. There are various tribes of people, each with distinctive names, but by the late 19th century, the name Samoyed was used to refer to many ethnic groups. It carries the meaning of self-sufficient, which is certainly what these people were, and the name transferred to this breed of dog, Samoyed, sometimes known as the smiling dog. On the table now we have the Shetland Sheepdog, a breed called for 2 judges. Dogs were judged by Mr. E.J. Robinson, and the bitches were judged by Mrs. Fairlith Summerfield. Jointly they had an entry of 293, and this best of breed is a dog 5030. One can see as it moves, it's a small and it's a graceful shepherding dog. It comes from the bare, craggy countryside of the Shetland Isles. Fairly inhospitable place for raising stock. But Shetlanders developed breeds of animal which did not need lush ground in order to survive. Hence the Shetland Sheepdog, the Shetland Pony, Sheltie miniature cows. And it was a Shetlander called Loggie who standardized the breed for the show ring. And it was first entered at this show, Crufts, in 1906. On the table, Swedish Lapphund. Mr. A. Mackenzie was the judge. 55 were entered under him. This is a dog, and his number, according to my records here, is 30011. First introduced into the United Kingdom in 1974 by Mr. and Mrs. Cartledge of the Ruislip Kennels. Further imports in subsequent years have ensured a steady progress in the production of good stock. Classified as one of the Spitz group, which includes other dogs which we've seen, such as the Siberian Husky. Now we come to our 2 breeds of Welsh corgi. First of all, we have the Cardigan. The judge was Miss Fran Fricker. She had an entry of 41. And this one on the table is number 5248 and is again a dog. For centuries there have been corgis on the farms and hills of West Wales. Maybe they weren't always known as corgis. Welsh heelers was a name used sometimes. But from these have developed two distinct types of corgi. We have the cardigan, this one with the long tail. We have the Pembroke, which is on the table and we shall see in a moment. Few corgis were shown prior to the formation of the Welsh Corgi Club in 1925. But they are quite regularly seen at all our shows now. And here we have the Pembroke, the one without the tail. The judge today was Mrs. Margot Parsons, with a good entry of 151. And this one is the bitch, 5295. Classes for the Welsh corgis, as they were known, were put on at the Royal Welsh Agricultural Show in 1925. An interest mounted in the breed in England as well as Wales. And they have gone on and on until we recognise them now as one of our popular show breeds. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen, various breeds of the Pastoral Group. Now Mr. Smith is going to cast his eye over them all again. Then he will shortlist, I think probably 8, we shall see in a moment. This is the time for you to pick out the one you fancy. We've got 28 here for Mr. Smith to look at. May I just remind you that tomorrow, the second day of Crufts 2002, we have two groups again, the Terriers and the Hounds. And on Saturday, the third day, we have the Toys and Utility groups. Our fourth day, Sunday, we have Gun Dogs and, of course, Best in Show and a full evening programme. Mr. Smith having a good, hard, long look at these dogs, which he's gone over individually and is now reminding himself of their various attributes, and perhaps a few faults, but we hope not too many of those. So we come to the Pembroke Corgi. Now comes the job of selecting a shortlist. Right, here we go. Which is to be the first one shortlisted? Which was it? Oh, it's the Australian Shepherd. Well done. Now we have got the Border Collie. We've got the Hungarian Puli. We've got the Old English Sheepdog. Got the Polish Lowland, we've got the Pyrenean, the Samoyed, and the Welsh Pembroke Corgi, ladies and gentlemen. That makes 8. Now Mr. Smith is shaking hands with all those who didn't make the final cut, but give them a big hand as they leave. Come on, they've done very well. Your applause will send them on their way. Just keep the applause rippling for a minute more, because there's quite a few more to go out. That's right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You're very good. You're very good. Thank you. Now we've got our 8 to look at. Mr. Smith, I'm sure, is going to move these 8 dogs. I have a feeling he may not move them straight up and down as Mr. Bissell did, but we'll see. Yes, he's giving a different instruction, I'm sure of that. Yes, they're going, it's not a triangle, it's sort of circular triangle. There they go, there goes the Australian Shepherd Dog 2640. Next we have the Border Collie 3350. That's right, support your favourites. Now it's the turn of the Hungarian Puli. 4205. Whoops. Now we come to the Old English Sheepdog 4399. Down a little bit in size to the Polish Lowland, 4569. Now it's up again in size to the Pyrenean, 4672. Now the Smiling Samoyed, 4755. And the last of the 8 is the Pembroke Corgi, 5295. Out come the stewards, carrying these all-important place boards, rosettes on the top. Going to the Old English Sheepdog, 4399. Well done. Then we have the Australian Shepherd Dog in second place, 2640. Then the Polish Lowland Sheepdog goes third, 4569. And it's the Pyrenean goes into fourth place, 4672. And it's a handshake for the others. And you, ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause as they leave us. They're going out now. A little disappointed, I'm sure, but they've done very well to get as far as they did. And ladies and gentlemen, please give your thanks to our judge, Mr. Derek Smith. And will you welcome, as the presenter, Mr. Peter Groves, Specialist Channels Director of Pedigree. Here he comes, big hand for him, come along. There's his wonderful trophy. A handshake to the winner, who also will be here on Sunday night. I hope many of you will be here on Sunday to see the best in show. You know 2 of the dogs which will be in that lineup. Giant Schnauzer and this Old English Sheepdog. Congratulations as you go down the line, this time to the Australian Shepherd, its handler. This time to the Polish Lowland Sheepdog. Last but not least, the Pyrenean. I'm sure we'll see them do a round of the ring, but it'll be fun to see whether the Pyrenean overtakes. Let's have the Old English Sheepdog taking the round then. Thanks at the same time to Mr. Peter Groves and to our judge, Mr. Derek.